Good morning, everyone. This is Judith Echo. You're listening to Mad Love. Let's get into it. So, thank you for the amazing response to my podcast yesterday about my brother. Um, you know, I think, like I said, when people hear, "Oh, my brother died," they immediately make giant leaps about, you know, the closeness, uh, how you felt about each other, and they usually project their relationship with their siblings and family onto you. The only one that I've ever seen that was universally pretty much the same is the mother. Everybody usually, not everybody, but most people have a strong bond and connection with their mother. So as soon as they hear your mother died, there is an instant grief that usually is accurate. Um, People have mixed bag relationships with their fathers. I was very close to mine. I was super sad when my dad passed away. Um, and with my brother, people just assume like, oh, you were close to them, and we weren't not close, but he was bipolar. And let's be clear, that is a very, very, very challenging situation to have to deal with. It's the equivalent of that guy you've been avoiding as you try to walk into 7-Eleven and you see they're in the middle of some kind of breakdown. Imagine if that person went home with you. That's what it's like to live with a bipolar person. That those people you cross the street to not have to deal with because they clearly are into some sort of psychotic break. Those people are going home with you and living with you when your family has a bipolar person in it. And it's everyone's responsibility if you're a close family. Now, some people, yes, this is where I'm projecting. Some people don't give a damn what happens to other people. They are completely self-absorbed. They don't care. They were raised to, I don't know how they were raised. I can't even speak on that. But in their minds, this is not their responsibility, and they're not gonna fuck with it, and they don't. And you don't have to have a bipolar relative to feel that way about your family. I get it, but my people were family people. My parents were big on family. My father's family is humongous. And he, from what I understand, came to St. Louis after he married my mom and was like, "Oh, family gets together. Family has food. Family fellowships. Family spends time." And because of him, um, it's my understanding that's why I grew up so close to my cousins because we were together all the time. And my dad came from a huge family. He had like 8 siblings, and then they all had 3, 4, 5 kids, and I'll never know all of them. But yeah, and my brother was at all of those functions. And he came to all the family parties. He was a part of the family with all his issues and ailments. We were all right there. So, but as a sibling, as a younger sibling, and I lived in the household with him. So, what was scary about mental illness is, especially back 40 years ago, I mean, they just did not know very much. There were years waiting to get an accurate diagnosis and accurate medication for him. I think the first 10 years were a disaster. So from like 81 to 91, they really just didn't know how to treat him. And so you got to imagine I'm going through major life changes. I entered high school in that time frame. I graduated high school in that time frame. I went to college in that time frame, and I graduated from college in that time frame. And it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. He did come and visit me while I was in college with his best friend. Um, we went to we went to football games. I remember, I think my brother and I went to the last St. Louis football Cardinal game in Busch Stadium. That was hilarious because I don't remember very many people being there. It was like us, and we were in the nosebleeds, and it would be like random people in nosebleed seats all around the stadium. And he took me on my birthday to go see The Empire Strikes Back, I think. Or was it The Return of the Jedi? I know we went to see a Star Wars movie. The real Star Wars, not this bullshit they have out now. Um, yeah, like 77, I think my whole family went to the first Star Wars, all the cousins. And then I think in 1980 or 81, we went to go see The Empire Strikes Back, or 83, Return of the Jedi. But we went to the movies, you know. When he was younger, he was so much more active. And I told him, see, I don't sugarcoat things. People are always like, you just say whatever. Yes, yes. I now have the courage to say whatever I want whenever I want. When I was younger, I was very selective, you know. But now I'm in my 50s. A woman in her 50s is like a beautiful weapon. Like hey, you need me to tee off on somebody on the phone? Hey, give me a crazy customer service experience and you'll see. I just be waiting for it. You need me to go off on you? And I'm not a yeller. I don't ever raise my voice. I just say what I'm thinking. So, my brother was an excellent manipulator. If you know somebody with bipolar disorder, you got to realize they will say anything. And he's a Scorpio male. He will say anything to get what he wants. And I've seen it in people who weren't diagnosed bipolar, but it's special when a bipolar person decides they want something. So my brother was content to let everybody think he had been living his whole life laid up sick like this. And I was like, Tracy, tell these people the truth. And they would look at me like, man, you're kind of a bitch. And I know they wouldn't say it because his caregivers, they were really fond of him. And I think they assumed because I had taken care of my mom, and when my mom, my mom took all my energy, and she was my top priority. So last year, after she passed away in December of 2024, for those of you who don't know, so after I don't know a few months into last year, I was starting to get my bearings back, get my sleep, and as soon as I was getting on my feet, my brother was back in the hospital. He spent half of 2025 in the hospital. And not a lot of people saw me. So his caregivers didn't get introduced to me for real until last year because I had time. And you know, I think they assumed that we were so hands off because we just had this. I don't know what he told them, but the reality is, I know my brother was full of shit. Like he's a manipulator. So I was like, dude, do not even fix your mouth. And he never did. He knew I would never go by him something bad to eat. And then once I found out he had congestive heart failure, I held my tongue. I did not say anything, but I watched them feed him the worst food ever. But I knew that he was manipulating them to get it. I mean, he was like a food junkie. Not like, he was a food addict. And, like I said, I can't imagine what his life would have been like if he had loftier goals because he was fiercely committed to eating whatever he wanted. And apparently, that's a big thing with bipolar people. They die young because they make poor choices and they have addictive personalities. And thankfully, he didn't choose sex or drugs. He chose food and he was completely addicted to eating poorly. And it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch. And I'm cleaning out his refrigerator now. And 90% of it I don't know what to do with because I don't eat like that. So these are just interesting things. And like I said, people make assumptions and leaps. I didn't dislike my brother or hate my brother, but I'm telling you something, you know, bipolar disorder is a challenging piece of a personality because it's like a labyrinth. His brain didn't work like a lot of other brains. It's like his ideas of logic and what made sense, it was just exhaustive. That's all I'm saying. It was exhaustive. And I obviously loved my brother because I did way more for him than he could ever physically do for me. It would never occur to him to to be as kind to me as I was to him. There was never a time in my life where I could just pick up the phone and call my brother because he was getting ready to come fix a situation for me. That's not who he was. And I knew that early on. And he was very obviously vulnerable. He had some birth injury issues, but also he was bipolar. I'm telling you that bipolar is nothing to joke around about. If you know somebody with mental illness, you know what I'm talking about. And a lot of people, if you're a cousin or an uncle like you can be hands off. You only have to see them a few times a year if you want, or never if you want. But growing up in the household with it was very informative. It has helped me throughout my career. I remember I was working at WashU, and a young man came in, obviously troubled, obviously troubled. He had not been sleeping. And I remember when he was a student there, and people were trying to make me call the campus police on him. I was like, no, I'm not going to call campus police. I know what's going on with him. He's in a crisis. And I talked with him and I urged him to get back in his car and drive back to his home in Atlanta. And of course, I'm making myself sound like a hero, but I was young, much younger than I am right now. I refused to call campus police on him, but I did urge him to go get some help and get some sleep because I've recognized what it was. Now, of course, at this age, I would have done more to make sure he actually got back home. Um, but I was encouraged that I didn't see him again. I think he may have actually taken the advice. Like, get some sleep, then get back in your car and go home. You are in the middle of a crisis and you need to get some help. Um, but yeah, but I recognize that because my brother would be like that. And when they go off those meds, man, and I kept trying to explain to his caregiving team, I'm like, Tracy did not spend his life laying around like this. He did not spend his life being sick. Tracy was in a fraternity. He pledged. He was an alpha, uh, AFIA. He was a deacon in church. He he lived a full life. He used to travel. He used to go to spring training games to see the Cardinals. He loved the St. Louis Cardinals. I know that it was bothering him that the team was so bad. Um, it's bothering me. I haven't watched a Cardinal game in years because they're so terrible. Um, but anyway, I know he lived a full life. And when people assume I'm sad or sadder than I come off, it's because when someone has lived that difficult of an existence, it's almost a relief that they finally get some rest. If you've never seen the one of those breaks from reality where they're not on their medication and they're hyped up and they're talking nonstop and nothing makes sense. And, I give my mom all the credit in the world. She advocated for him as long as she possibly could. Um, and then a lot of that fell to me, mostly me, and then my sister also helped out in the later years, but there was a good chunk of years where it was just me and my mom just driving down there. His dad was able to get down there and see him, um, but it was a once or twice a year trip. You had to go down there, and hopefully he was on his medication. I've talked to his boss, I've talked to his doctor, and they're like, well, we can't share any information. I was like, that's fine, I'll do all the talking. um, because he was a charmer. He'd get in there and finesse these doctors, and that had become a way of life for him. As soon as he saw a doctor, it was he just turned on another switch, and he would just be charming and finessing these people, and he had been doing it for years. And I saw it personally about 2 months ago when I was sitting with him waiting because his caregivers were in between shifts and his doctor wanted to come for an in-person visit. So I'm sitting there watching him nod off, seeming completely out of it, near death to me that day. And then the doctor was coming out, so I didn't buzz him in. I went to go let him in. By the time we walked back in, my brother had ripped the mask off and he was like, "Hey, George, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" He has sat up and now that I'm talking to you guys about this, I'm thinking, oh, that's what he always did with these doctors. So I didn't know what was fake and or were you fake almost, seeming like you were dying, or were you faking feeling good for the doctor? And now that I say it out loud, I realize that's what he used to do with every doctor. He pretended he was healthy. And one time they lowered his dosage of medication and they were like, he almost doesn't need. I was like, wait, what? No, he needs this medicine. He is fooling you. He did not get better after 40 years. Like, he needs help. I don't know. It's an interesting journey. I have had a very interesting life. Not in a fun, like, I've traveled the world kind of way, but I've been exposed to a lot of different types of personalities, a lot of different types of illnesses. Um, and I think it's made me a better human, but it's been really, really challenging at times. And my brother was always a challenge. So, of course, anybody who's had a bipolar relative, they know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, uh, it makes you, I'm sad he's gone, but I am thrilled that he's not suffering because he was suffering greatly. He was really uncomfortable. And I told him not a few weeks ago, I was like, dude, you look like you're miserable in this bed. And because he hated wearing the mask, but he couldn't breathe well. And oh, I getting way back to what I was gonna say. I just told him flat out, like I was always honest with him, and the caregivers would just be like, I'm pretty sure he told them any number of stories about how mean I was, or how my mom was actually mean, and but she was hard on us too, and she hated fat, and it was weird that she had overweight kids because she really hated fat, and you know, he was just like uh relentlessly addicted to this bad, terrible food. And my mom she would just be going off on him about that and like, please take care of yourself, please take care of yourself. And so he never even bothered to ask me to bring him anything because I really can't do something for you when I know you're struggling. So if I know that you're sick, I'm not about to send you chocolate and candy as a treat or, hamburgers. And every story that has come out is somebody was like, oh yeah, so and so felt so bad, she just brought him a Whopper. Okay. He is in the facility. He's in a facility with congestive heart failure. And I'm not blaming people for falling prey because Tracy was an excellent manipulator. And you'll find most bipolar disorder people are. They say what you want to hear. They charm you. And then it goes in one ear. It's crazy. It goes in one ear and right out the other one because he is not really engaged. It just sounds like he is. And he did that to us all the time. But not to me, because remember, I'm younger than him. I know what's going on. You can pretend you're healthy to a certain extent, but I know the truth. And I've always known the truth and I've never been afraid to say it, which might be my superpower. Because I really was like, Tracy, you're in bad shape, bro. And I told him the other day, I was like, I don't think you realize how sick you are. Like you need to comprehend this. And this finessing these doctors and finessing the caregivers, I mean, actions have consequences. So, like I said, I am sorry he's gone. I'm sorry he made these terrible choices, but I am elated that he's gone because he had made so many terrible choices. He was in horrible health. I was going through some of his paperwork yesterday. I was like, damn, this has been going on a long time, a very long time. And, like I said, when they get off that medication and they start talking crazy or running around the house or running outside, listen, this has been a journey. This has been a journey. And no one talks about it nearly enough. It's just like caregiving. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it's happening. And I guarantee you, a lot of the apathy you're seeing in the country is because people have bigger problems. They have bigger fish to fry, you know? It's wild. It's crazy to watch. It's been crazy to watch. My brother he was very bright. He worked very hard. He did well by himself. He took care of his mom. But I'm gonna tell you something. Bipolar is nothing to fuck with. If you know somebody who has it, or you suspect that somebody might be grappling with mental issues, you need to get them some help. And my mom fought vociferously for him, and I will give her all the credit in the world for that. And until I took over doing it and calling doctors and calling his boss and calling all these people to make sure his life could continue. And that's what I mean. He would never do that for me. There's not a problem I've ever had that I could call my brother and be like, he's getting ready to fix it for me. Because you know why? He was bipolar. You don't know what he was going to say or do. And he hated confrontation. So, yeah, we had a very we had a very friendly relationship. But I was his little sister and he knew that I was all business all the time. You know, and I told him in front of his caregivers, I'm like, I'm not sure why you want all these people to think you just laid up and never had a life, but you accomplished things and you chose to stop. You chose to just, I don't know, give up kind of. I don't know. I never seen anything like it. It was like watching a 30-year slow motion train wreck. And you could see what was coming, but he wanted to eat Papa John's. I mean, I never can explain it. That dude was addicted to Papa John's and Mountain Dew, and uh, I just threw out some cheese. He had cheese curls and some cheese, some hard little cheese things. I'm like, who? But they looked like Cheetos, but they weren't. They're like off-brand. Like, who eats like this in their 60s? I can't tell you the last time I had a cheese curl, but that's Tracy. He was the Papa John's cheese curl dude. So he lived the way he wanted to, and that I respect. I just would have respected it more if he had just come out and been like, look, I'm gonna fucking eat myself to death. I don't care what you think. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. But stop pretending you want to be healthy because you don't. That was my thing. And he manipulated folks to the nth degree. Mental illness is real, y'all. And it hits every community. And it's another thing that no one talks about, but it's very, very real. And it was a unique experience being his sister, especially his younger sister. So that was what's on my mind this morning. Uh, and it wasn't all bad. We had some laughs. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me or him or our family. You know, there were many, many funny things. Like, I can't share most of the stories because I'm pretty sure they would be not perceived. And, I don't need anybody judging us, and I don't give a fuck what you think because if you haven't done it, you don't know. But, I'm not going to open up our family vault of hilarious stories. Um, but my brother was deep, man. Yeah. But we had fun. We had a lot of laughs. There were plenty of times we laughed because it was preposterous. You know, crazy people say funny things. Like, what are you talking about? And me, I'm always like, what? What are you saying? Yeah, and then that's the weird thing. When you have a conversation with someone who's mentally ill, after a while, you start to feel like you might be not quite right because the shit starts making some sense. And you're like, wait, what? What are we doing here? So it's a unique journey, and I'm just the person to have it because uh, I haven't fully ever written about what it was like to have a bipolar sibling, but I feel like it's about to make its way into my scripts big time. All right, happy Wednesday. It's been so far this week has been nuts for me. This is not what I intended or expected. Like I said, every time I got emotionally wrapped around the idea that he was getting ready to go, he popped right back up. Hey, it was like, what the fuck? So it is a little weird that he's not alive anymore. So there is some shock there, but mostly relief because I'm telling you, bipolar is no joke. It's no joke. And it is a long, arduous journey Take care of yourselves. Have an amazing Wednesday, March 25th. That's nuts. We're getting ready to get into April. It's resurrection season, and your girl is getting ready. Because finally, there's nobody in St. Louis for me to take care of right now, except for Judy. And I'm here for that. Take care.